We hear a lot about female empowerment in this country, and of course we're totally for that. We're for empowering all Americans. But for some reason, you almost never hear anything about how men are doing in America. So we took a close look at the numbers, and we found them so shocking that we're devoting the month of March to a special series on men in America. Every Wednesday, starting tomorrow, you'll be stunned by the scope of the crisis. We were. It's a largely ignored disaster, and it is a disaster. It affects every person in America. Hope you'll be also heartened by some of the potential solutions we're looking at. We kick off tomorrow night with renowned psychologist and thinker Jordan Peterson. Every Wednesday at 8. I hope you'll join us starting tomorrow. Tune in every night to the show that's the sworn enemy of lying, pomposity, smugness, and groupthink. Thanks for a great hour. Good night from Washington. Sean Hannity, right now.
Lying, pomposity, smugness, groupthink. I got it. I totally got it.
That's the spirit, Sean.
All right, Tucker, thank you. And welcome to Hannity tonight. Breaking news you will not get anywhere else in the media. Roger Stone, Sarah Carter, Dan Bongino, Greg Jarrett, Jesse Waters, Jessica Tarlov, Sean Spicer, Joe Concha, all here with reaction tonight. Now, the abusively biased media goes wall to wall to exploit unhinged former Trump advisor Sam Nunberg, who was clearly in the middle of a personal crisis and breakdown. Now, plus, this is CNN, the fake news network. They actually traveled to Thailand to interview a jailed Russia, quote, sex coach and prostitute who's claiming to have information about the 2016 election interference. Is fake news CNN really that desperate? And also, brand new tonight, more evidence that the fix was in with the FBI's Clinton email investigation. Fox News reporting right here that the Trump-hating FBI agent Peter Strzok was told about a possible breach to Clinton's private server, but he never followed up. That's dangerous. And breaking now, Sarah Carter has an explosive report about John Kerry. Now, the former Secretary of State is now being investigated by the House Intel Committee for his possible ties to the Clinton bought and paid for dossier. And key Republican committee chairmen are now calling, as we are, for a second special counsel to be impaneled to investigate the investigators and the severe FISA abuse and FBI bias. And there is a potential tonight, a nuclear breakthrough with North Korea. Dictator Kim Jong-un is saying he's willing to talk to the U.S. about giving up his nukes. We're going to tell you how President Trump is responding, all happening in our breaking news opening monologue. All right, tonight we have a brand new example of just how despicably low the hate Trump media will go at every cost to try and damage this president. Now, the corrupt and abusively biased press is exploiting former Trump advisor Sam Nunberg to help do their dirty work. Now, never mind the fact that this guy, Sam Nunberg, was in the middle of what is obviously a complete and total breakdown after getting served a subpoena by the special counsel Robert Mueller. Now, the media didn't care about any of that. They cheered Nunberg. Of course, they were cheering him on because he was attacking the Trump administration during a series of what are really incoherent interviews. Watch the exploitation.
Why do I have to give them my personal communications? Steve Bannon, Roger Stone. Roger's my mentor. I email Ari with Roger 15 times a day. For Sarah Huckabee to start criticizing me, I would say, and I know you may not like it the way I say it, she should shut her fat mouth. Sarah should shut up, frankly.
Clearly you're in the eye of a storm.
Sarah should shut up. She should shut her mouth.
Let me ask you the important question.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
And I'm warning her, by the way, to shut her mouth. Roger may be very upset. A lot of people may be very upset. I don't think has this been done before? They're not going to send me to jail. You know what, Mr. Mueller, if he wants to send me to jail, he can send me to jail, and then I'll laugh about it.
I think it would be funny if they arrested me.
You're held in contempt of court. Wouldn't you have higher legal bills?
Really funny if they wanted to arrest me, because I don't want to spend 80 hours going over emails I had with Steve Bannon and Roger Stone.
Talking to you, I have smelled alcohol on your breath.
Well, I have not had a drink.
You haven't had a drink, so that's not true.
No. My answer is no. I have not.
Anything else?
No.
No.
No. Besides my meds.
Okay.
Antidepressants, is that okay?
You know, you would think if Erin Burnett over at Fake News CNN, if she smelled alcohol on Nunberg's breath, maybe she would have maybe not put him on the air. But that wasn't the point of what the media was doing yesterday. They didn't care this guy was literally melting down on national television because they were using him as a tool to attack the Trump administration. It didn't matter if Nunberg wasn't making any sense, that he was contradicting himself or perhaps intoxicated, because the media saw this as an opportunity to attack the president, and they seized on it just like they always do. Here's another point. While the mainstream media was obsessing over Nunberg's freakout, they completely missed huge developments in stories they should have been covering, like irrefutable, concrete evidence of real Russia collusion. It's pretty shameful, a complete disservice to you, the American people. But we do know the liberal media in this country, they stopped caring about the truth, about facts a long time ago. And it's why the so-called Facts First Network, fake news CNN, they will go anywhere in the world to try and prove their Trump-Russia collusion conspiracy theory to be true. Okay, I'm not making this example up. It's true. From fake news CNN. They actually sent a reporter to Thailand. Why? To interview a jailed Russian prostitute / sex coach who's claiming to have information about 2016 election interference. Now, CNN couldn't bring in a camera in the prison, but here's what they reported. Did you miss this?
I just came out of this detention center where I spoke with Anastasia Vashukevich. It was loud and hot and chaotic, and talking through the bars, she says that she witnessed meetings between the Russian billionaire Oleg Deripaska and at least 3 Americans who she refused to name. She claims they discussed plans to affect the U.S. elections, but she wouldn't give any further information because she fears she could be deported back to Russia.
Let me get this straight. CNN sends a reporter to Thailand to interview a prostitute / sex coach in jail who claimed to have the smoking gun about the 2016 election. Well, that's news. More like this is CNN. Look, if you're surprised by CNN's latest stunt to prove the so-called Russia collusion, you should not be. Because CNN literally went dumpster diving last month in St. Petersburg, Russia, outside of a building that was reportedly home to the troll farm that tried to influence the election. You can't make this up. Take a look.
It looks like it's polystyrene wrappers for some sort of computer or electronic stuff that's been delivered there recently. In fact, we saw them taking out the boxes from what looked like new computers that had been delivered there.
Little dumpster diving. Let's see, sex coaches, prostitutes. We have a news flash for CNN. If you want evidence of real Russia collusion, real crimes that were committed, you don't have to waste your time traveling around the world and diving in dumpsters and going to jail to meet sex coaches. It's right in front of your faces and has been for over a year. We on this program, we have been exposing how all roads in this Russia investigation lead directly back to Hillary Clinton. She is at the center of everything. Now, you have the Clinton bought and paid for Russian dossier, the lying dossier, Russian propaganda and lies. John Solomon reporting that Australian diplomat that started the Russia investigation, he has deep ties to the Clintons, involved in $25 million going to the foundation. Then you got Sid Vicious Blumenthal, Cody Shearer. They were feeding anti-Trump dirt to the Obama State Department. And tonight we have a major new update from investigative reporter Sarah Carter. She's reporting that the House Intel Committee is now investigating former Secretary of State John Kerry and his possible role in the phony and completely unverified dossier. And as we just told you, Kerry's State Department, they were receiving anti-Trump information from longtime Clinton allies. I'm going to investigate that, CNN. And former State Department official, remember Jonathan Winter, he's admitting he met with former British spy Christopher Steele, plus former State Department official Victoria Nuland. She said that Steele gave the State Department pages of information that she apparently turned over to the FBI. So here are the key questions. What did John Kerry know now? When did he know it? And did this information from Steele and Clinton's allies make it to his desk? Now, the House Intelligence Committee Chair, Devin Nunes, he did send a list of 10 key questions about that dossier to former Obama officials, but it's unclear if John Kerry is one of them. Now, Sarah Carter will reveal all in a report coming up in mere moments. And also right now, even more evidence that the fix was in for the FBI's corrupt Clinton email investigation. Tonight, Fox is reporting that Trump-hating FBI agent Peter Strzok, he was told that Hillary Clinton's private server may have been hacked, but then he didn't do anything about it. Just more proof the FBI did not ever at any point conduct a real investigation, that the fix was in and it was rigged for Hillary Clinton in the beginning. We do know that Comey and Strzok and others, they were drafting the exoneration statement months before interviewing Hillary Clinton and 17 other key witnesses. In that exoneration letter, they changed the language that said it was reasonably likely that Clinton's server was hacked, and it was possible the server was accessed by hostile foreign actors. Maybe Russia. Think about it for a second. It was previously reported that 5 foreign actors had hacked Clinton's server. Well, we can guess one of them probably has to be Russia, another being China, possibly Iran. Was it North Korea? Well, all these people then had access to top secret material. That means American sources and methods were revealed, which means American lives were then put in danger. So Strzok put his personal biases ahead of protecting Americans and American national security, while Russia and others were literally looking page by page and stealing our national security secrets. Now, what Strzok did here is beyond a dereliction of duty. It's a crime, which is why we have to ask, how does Peter Strzok still have a job? And better yet, why isn't he being investigated? We now have a mountain of evidence of bias and wrongdoing against Peter Strzok and so many others, and this is only new information to add to the list. So it's time to hold him accountable. Now, we also have breaking tonight: the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Bob Goodlatte, and the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Trey Gowdy, they're making a joint plea to the Department of Justice. I'd like to join them, requesting the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, appoint a second special counsel to investigate all this misconduct, all this bias within the Department of Justice and the FBI. Now, according to the request, a second special counsel would investigate FISA abuses during and after the 2016 election, including why the unvetted, unverified, phony Steele dossier, how was it ever able to be used to obtain a warrant against Carter Page? How did that ever happen? And as we said so many times on this program, a special counsel is needed. They can't investigate themselves. And it's the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions' job to make this happen. Now, finally tonight, after decades of inaction and so much diplomatic failure that resulted in a nuclear-armed North Korea, Clinton's bribery, Bill Clinton's, didn't work, well, a breakthrough potentially is on the horizon. Talks between North and South Korea have been progressing, and officials in Pyongyang are now reportedly open to renegotiating the denuclearization in the region. Now, of course, the kingdom has also expressed an interest in normalizing relations with the United States, has allegedly made offers to end nuclear and ballistic missile tests. And, of course, this comes just weeks after the Trump administration enacted tough new sanctions against North Korea, and months since President Trump moved a third carrier strike group to the region. Now, here's what President Trump had to say about all these new developments earlier today.
Do you believe that North Korea's recent willingness to talk is sincere, or is it an effort to buy time for their nuclear program? And to what do you owe this recent openness to talk?
Me? No, I think that nobody got that. I think that they are sincere, but I think they're sincere also because the sanctions and what we're doing with respect to North Korea, including, the great help that we've been given from China, and they can do more, but I think they've done more than certainly they've ever done for our country before. So China has been a big help. I think that's been a factor. But the sanctions have been very, very strong and very biting, and we don't want that to happen. So I really believe they are sincere. I hope they're sincere. We're going to soon find out.
Now, while these revelations may present and represent a potential diplomatic breakthrough, it's unlikely that the United States will hold bilateral direct talks with North Korea until Kim Jong-un gets rid of his nuclear weapons program. I say that move is highly unlikely. Beware. And joining us now with reaction to all the breaking news tonight, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter, NRA TV contributor and former Secret Service agent Dan Bongino, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. Sarah, let's start with your new news and take it from there.
Well, what we know now is that the House Intelligence Committee has expanded to include in their second phase, which is the State Department, John Kerry. And the reason is, Sean, that there's new evidence that's been surfacing. Part of it came out in Jonathan Weiner's op-ed that was in the Washington Post. And recently, in a story published by The New Yorker, an expose with Christopher Steele, where it's actually, they bury deep in the story, you'll see that Kerry was actually briefed on the dossier sometime during September 2016 or October. So Kerry was briefed after Weiner gave his summary to Victoria Nuland and to John Feiner, who was his chief of staff. Then Feiner went and briefed Kerry. So how far did this go? What the House Intelligence Committee and other congressional members, along with the Senate Judiciary, want to know is how high up the chain did the information on the dossier go? Was it just to the high-level officials like Kerry, or did it go all the way up to the president? And I think that's why that's so imperative. In their questioning, they asked if anybody had briefed President Obama on the dossier prior to January 5th.
All right, let's go to the other news. Peter Strzok, I mean, this is pretty amazing, ignored the fact that he knew that Hillary's server was hacked. We know from James Comey, top secret, classified, special access program information was all on that server. We had heard 5 other hostile nations, but specifically they're reporting in the Daily Caller Russia, that Russia hacked into it, right, of all nations. Well, doesn't that put people's lives in jeopardy?
This is a guy, Peter Strzok, who decided, apparently on his own, he encouraged other people as well not to do a damage assessment. That's a serious breach of national security, and the FBI isn't doing a damage assessment.
But let's add to that, because he also was the one writing the exoneration of Comey. He also was the guy that interviewed Hillary Clinton just days before they exonerated her. Yeah. But they were exonerating her months in advance. They never did an investigation.
No, and she said, I don't recall up to 40 times. She could only recall her name and date of birth. Look, Peter Strzok, and this is the beauty of the computer systems, we now know when and by whom Comey's exoneration statement was altered to clear Hillary Clinton. And then, of course, Peter Strzok is the one who launched the investigation of Donald Trump to try to frame him for something he didn't do, Trump-Russian collusion. And here we are, you know, a year and a half later, and there's still no evidence of it. And the special counsel 10 months later doesn't have any evidence of it either. You know, there are a lot of bad characters in all of this, and I was glad to see today 2 very powerful law and order chairmen, Bob Goodlatte and Trey Gowdy, call for a second special counsel.
Dan Bongino, we all watched in horror as this poor guy, Sam Nunberg, is having a meltdown on national TV. Yeah. But you've got reporters saying, I smell alcohol in your breath, but they do it at the end of the interview. They don't stop the interview because it's anti-Trump. So there's a political component using this guy who's incoherent, making contradictory remarks just because it hurts Trump. Your reaction?
Yeah, Sean, you know, if he were to come on the air intoxicated or on some kind of mood-altering drug and would have said anything remotely pro-Trump or had not aligned himself with the Trump-Russia narrative in any way, they would have scrapped it. I mean, this is clearly a bottom-of-the-barrel effort here to attack the Trump team by any means necessary. It was really one of the more disgusting things. I mean, I'm no fan of the media here, the left-wing media, that's no secret, but it was one of the more disgusting episodes I've ever seen in my, 43 years on the planet. It was grotesque. Yeah. They should be horrified at what happened.
Sarah, in all your reporting, because you first broke that, in fact, a FISA warrant in Trump Tower had in fact taken place. You broke that story in March of last year, and we've been following the story ever since. Can you see any connection to dumpster diving in St. Petersburg, Russia? Do you see any role that perhaps the sex coach / prostitute in jail in Thailand may have had that you missed? I mean, if you've fallen down on the job is basically what I'm asking you. Have you failed our audience?
No, I have not. I would be the first to go dumpster diving in Russia or wherever, you know, to find a story. But look, the story's right here. It appears that the media, Sean, a lot of folks in the media, and I'm going to talk about CNN here, are having such a difficult time accepting the facts that they're going to extreme measures, and it's actually starting to look ridiculous. It's actually sad because they're not informing the public. And a lot of the public, the part of the public that watches CNN, I know their ratings have gone way down, but there are people watching it, aren't getting the full facts here. And lawmakers are not being serviced as well with the facts to make better decisions. So they don't need to go that far. They just need to look right here and start their own investigations. I welcome them to start following these investigations because I think they're going to go much further. I think they're going to lead to bigger stories, Sean. This is just the beginning. Remember, after the IG report, we're looking at a possible special counsel. That could easily happen. More lawmakers are going to jump on that bandwagon.
It's way too slow for my liking, but I agree, knowing a lot of what I'm pretty aware is coming, as you do. I want to go back to the issue of Sam Nunberg and get your take on this. I mean, you know, I'm trying to understand, really, what was the point? They know that he's contradicting himself, but they keep exploiting this guy.
CNN and MSNBC in particular were so giddy with excitement in their zeal to bring down Donald Trump. They were willing to take advantage and exploit and manipulate a guy who was obviously troubled. It was clear he didn't know anything because he was in early in the campaign in 2015.
He said he was in 2011. I've known Trump all these years. While he was flirting with it and messing around with it, he really had no intention of running.
Where was Andy Lack, Phil Griffin, and Jeff Zucker? Why didn't they call the control room after the first interview?
No, one of them was busy.
And say, stop it. Take him off our air.
Let me ask you, Dan Bongino, last question. When this server is breached, and Peter Strzok, an FBI agent, knows it, and you have top secret classified special access program information on it. People's lives were put in jeopardy, and he didn't do his job. What should happen?
You know, it's a travesty that Hillary Clinton wasn't indicted for this, Sean. I have some great contacts on this with firsthand information about that server, given my prior line of employment, and it's not pretty. A lot of people knew about this for a long time, and the fact that they changed the language in that famous July 5th Jim Comey speech regarding, what did it say, that it was reasonably likely, it went from reasonably likely to highly probable or something like that, goes to show you that this was an effort the entire time to exonerate Hillary Clinton, Sean, no matter what.
They started writing the exoneration in May, and I don't think our friends in the media or on the left care about the rule of law anymore. All right, guys, thank you all. We appreciate it. When we come back, the one and only Roger Stone. If you haven't seen his show on Netflix, well, an expose on him, you got to watch it. It's very entertaining. We'll get to that and much more straight ahead. Did Russia give you this information or anybody associated with Russia?
Our source is not a state party. So the answer for our interactions is no.
You did not get this information about the DNC, John Podesta's emails. Can you tell the American people 1,000% you did not get it from Russia or anybody associated with Russia?
We can say, we have said repeatedly over the last 2 months that our source is not the Russian government and it is not a state party.
That was WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange back in January 2017 when we went to the Ecuadorian embassy in Great Britain denying allegations that Russia gave him hacked Democratic emails. The mainstream media, they will stop at nothing to try and tie President Trump and his associates to all things Russia. Well, now they're turning their attention to longtime Republican strategist, former Trump advisor Roger Stone. One headline from Vice News reads, "Why Roger Stone could be Mueller's next target in the Russia probe." Here to respond is the man himself, former Trump campaign advisor, Republican strategist. He got a full feature for himself on Netflix. Roger Stone, how are you, sir?
Sean, thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate you being back. Let's start with Sam Nunberg. Apparently a protege of yours. I felt he was exploited by the media. It looked like something was wrong. I don't know him that well. I don't know him really at all. It didn't seem right. He seemed incoherent, contradicting himself. What was your reaction as someone who knows him?
Well, watching that interview was kind of like a cross between Howard Beale in Network saying, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore, and an Andy Kaufman comedy routine. Sam Nunberg is a talented guy. He's clearly dealing with his own demons. But let me make clear, he is not speaking at my behest or with my direction. Yet on the heels of Sam's interview, Vice, The Washington Post, MSNBC, and others say that my indictment is imminent because I received hacked DNC material from WikiLeaks or Julian Assange, and I gave it to the Trump campaign and Donald Trump.
In advance of their release.
I never received anything whatsoever. Let me be clear. I had no advance notice of the content, source, or exact timing of the WikiLeaks disclosures regarding the DNC or Hillary Clinton. I never received any material from WikiLeaks or from the Russian state or anyone else. Therefore, I couldn't have passed it on to anyone in the Trump campaign. And I never discussed the WikiLeaks disclosures whatsoever with candidate Donald Trump or President Donald Trump.
You never
before, during, or after the campaign.
Have you been subpoenaed by Robert Mueller?
I have not, but based on a New York Times story of January 20th, 2017, Inauguration Day, that said that my communications were, along with Paul Manafort and Carter Page, being surveilled under a FISA warrant, I've operated on the assumption that some authorities have been monitoring my communications the entire time. I have no evidence or knowledge or involvement in Russian collusion or any other inappropriate act.
I might be the only person in America that has actually interviewed Julian Assange 5 times. And I did go to the Ecuadorian embassy. Some people like him, some people don't like him. That's irrelevant. We know he's the one that put the emails in play. He put them out. He revealed these emails to the world. The question that I think we've got to ask ourselves, if Robert Mueller, if his mandate, which is now expanded even into the UAE and well beyond what his original mandate is, but if his mandate is to discover Trump-Russia collusion, where these emails came from, did they come from Russia? Don't you think the first guy you might want to ask or try and get information from would be the guy that the one person on earth that you know knows where that came from? Whether you like Julian or don't like Julian, that would be Julian Assange. I can't say with certainty anybody else on the face of this earth would know 100%, but he would.
Well, when I said on MSNBC tonight that I did not believe that Julian Assange was a Russian agent, and I did not believe that WikiLeaks is a Russian asset, I think he's an honest journalist, and no one has questioned the authenticity or the accuracy of any of the material that WikiLeaks has released.
11 years.
So their whole premise is their whole false premise.
11 years, they've never gotten a thing wrong. That's a far better track record than the 3 major networks, MSNBC, CNN, The Washington Post, and The New York Times. Not once that I have ever seen did they get it wrong.
That's exactly right. And this entire narrative is based on a false premise from our politicized intelligence agencies that Julian Assange is a Russian agent. No, he isn't. He's a courageous journalist who has an incredible track record for accuracy and authenticity. So when you reject that, at MSNBC, one commentator said, now Stone is moving the goalpost. Not at all. I've been saying this for 2 years. I continue to believe it. The same people who tell you, there's no metadata collection program on Americans, or Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction, they now insist Julian Assange is a Russian asset. I believe that is entirely false.
Well, we now know that Peter Strzok apparently knew that Hillary's server, in fact, had been infiltrated by the Russians. Is it possible that maybe Julian Assange had sources? Up to 5 foreign intelligence agencies would have had access to her emails. Is it possible he got it from one source and the Russians did have it? Is it possible everybody had it because she went to a mom and pop shop bathroom and broke the law and committed felonies in the process of not handling classified information the way it should have been classified, the way it should have been handled?
But more importantly, Sean, this whole discussion is meant to distract from the content of the disclosures.
Good point.
Which show Hillary Clinton to be greedy, corrupt, up to her nose in campaign dirty tricks, and to distract from the fact that the Obama Justice Department and the Obama FBI utilized what they knew was fabricated evidence to justify legally the surveillance of the Republican candidate for president. This is an abuse of power that makes Watergate look like small potatoes. It is obvious that the question that must be asked, based on the FBI text messages, is, what did Obama know, and when did he know it?
Well said. What's your relationship like with the president? A lot of people try to make, I've always said to people that Donald Trump is his own man, and anyone that tells you any different doesn't know Donald Trump. He makes his own mind up. That is
entirely true. There is no Karl Rove in Trump land. He is his own strategist, his own wordsmith, and damn good at it. I am a loyal supporter of the president, and I think he's doing an amazing job, given the deep state enmity and the two-party duopoly opposition to him. 2 million new jobs.
Last question.
A growing economy, extraordinary.
This is personal between you and me. You had said once that I was lobbying to be in the Trump administration. I never lobbied ever, nor would I ever have taken, nor did I ever talk to anybody about it. Do you remember saying that?
I don't recall ever saying that, but if I did, I stand corrected.
All right, no problem. Roger, but I'm not, listen, I'm just waiting until I get my own Netflix, 2-hour special. That would be a big day for me. Congratulations.
We could call it Get Me Sean Hannity.
All right, good to see you. Thank you. When we come back, Ed Henry, big news, President Trump's battle against California's sanctuary state policies. Jesse Waters, Jessica Tarlov on some prominent Democrats with known ties to the anti-Semite, racist Louis Farrakhan. Straight ahead. All right, there's big breaking news on President Trump's fight against California's sanctuary policies. Here with more, Fox News chief national correspondent, our own Ed Henry tonight. Ed, what's happening?
Sean, great to see you. In fact, this is breaking just this hour. Fox News learning the Trump administration is filing a lawsuit tonight against the state of California, charging that 3 recently passed state laws are interfering with federal immigration enforcement. Attorney General Jeff Sessions is in California himself tonight, declaring he's determined to enforce the law and reduce crime, and is seeking an injunction to block the 3 California laws, including one that justice officials say is preventing private companies from voluntarily cooperating with ICE officials. This confrontation, of course, comes shortly after Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf took the resist movement to a whole new level, warning potential targets that ICE agents were planning to arrest them around the Bay Area last month. Yet the president struck back this week with a major court victory, a federal judge ruling the White House can withhold a $1 million federal grant to California because of concerns about that state's sanctuary city policies. That basically it's a sanctuary state now, giving refuge to about 2.5 million illegal immigrants right now. On the other side of the country, near Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, several MS-13 gang members are facing life sentences after they were convicted of restraining and then killing a Virginia man who was believed to be aligned with a rival gang member. Now, the gruesome part is the man was stabbed more than 50 times after being lured to a rock quarry. Then his body was dumped into a ditch while the MS-13 gang members tried to burn their own clothing to destroy the evidence. Bottom line is the Attorney General is now leaving the door open to filing suits not just in California, but all around the country, Sean.
All right, thanks for that report. We appreciate it. Ed Henry, the Daily Caller, they have an explosive report on at least 7 House Democrats that have direct ties to the Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan, a known racist, known anti-Semite. Listen to what Farrakhan recently said in Chicago.
White folks are going down, and Satan is going down. And Farrakhan, by God's grace, has pulled the cover off of that satanic Jew. And I'm here to say, your time is up. Your world is through.
Joining us now, co-host of The Five and the host of Waters World, Jesse Waters, and Fox News contributor Jessica Tarlov. All right, whose world is it going to be this week? We have to wait and see. There was a photograph that recently was revealed that never came out in 2008, and that was with Barack Obama, we'll put it up on the screen, and Louis Farrakhan. There they are. I guess it was a Congressional Black Caucus event, and the person that took it was asked to hide that photo before the election. Would that photo have hurt Barack Obama's chances of winning?
I think that it would have. That's from when he was a state senator. I think it was taken in 2005. I think that it absolutely would have, which is why it was obviously hidden there. I think that Louis Farrakhan should be, you know, booted out of any good company.
The God teaches me that the white man is the skunk of the planet Earth.
I don't think that's true.
Well, I mean, I don't know why Barack Obama's hanging out with a guy he pals around with more racist than Donald Trump. He hangs out with Sharpton, hangs out with Reverend Wright, and now takes pictures.
He doesn't hang out with Reverend Wright. He has spoken out against
Reverend Wright's church for 20 years. Was Donald Trump in a racist church for 20 years?
I don't think Donald Trump goes to church at all.
I don't think so. Well, it's better than not going to a racist church.
Oh, listen, I'm not a fan of Reverend Wright. I'm not a fan of Louis Farrakhan. I mean, Al Sharpton, I think that's a little bit of a different thing there.
How do you make the case that he didn't know Reverend Wright when he was in the pews for 20 years? Can't you just admit that when he distanced himself from Wright, that was political expediency? Just be honest.
Yeah, I think that anyone would admit that.
But so he really liked Reverend Wright's church, but he can't admit it publicly.
I think that. Why are you laughing?
Because it's
it was a great question.
Preemptive struggle with this question. Listen, I think I've done as good as I can and say it was politically motivated. Obviously, what worked for him and Michelle at the time.
So can one assume that he actually agreed with Reverend Wright?
No, I don't think that you can. If you look at his policies and you look at his presidency and the way that he ran this country, it has nothing to do. What
if Jesse Waters, the guy sitting next to you right there, what if Jesse Waters hung out with somebody that the Sunday after 9/11 said America's chickens have come home to roost, not God bless America, GD America? What would you think of Jesse?
You wouldn't sit next to me. But all these 7 Democrats have sat next to Reverend Wright and now sitting next to Louis Farrakhan, who said that Louis Farrakhan said Hitler was a good guy.
Yeah, a very good man.
And then when they were asked about it, Danny Davis, Democrat in the House, said Farrakhan was an outstanding human being. Could you imagine if a Republican in the House, white guy, was saying that stuff about David Duke?
Can you
imagine
if the President of the United States said there are very fine people on both sides in Charlottesville?
Listen, the president has said imprecise things. He dated a black model for 2 years.
So what?
His son-in-law is
he knows
Jewish.
A black woman defense?
Jesse Jackson, for years, said that Donald Trump has done great things for the black community.
This is absurd.
He was not taking pictures with Farrakhan, as was Barack Obama. He said to the black community, what do you have to lose? He called NFL players sons of bees. What does that have to do with racism?
The Central Park Five
if you're going to kneel during the national anthem,
exonerated
that's unpatriotic.
by DNA evidence. It is your First Amendment right to protest, right?
I'm not talking about the national anthem. I'm talking about Barack Obama and 7 Democrats taking photographs and hugging Louis Farrakhan, who also said white people deserve to die. Jews are my enemy. You're Jewish. Don't you think that's offensive?
What's insane about this is I began this segment by agreeing with you two, and you're still railing on me.
You started off so well. You were doing so well. You should just agree with me the whole time.
And I think that I'm winning. About Farrakhan, I absolutely agree with you on all these points, and I would add to it that there's tape that I saw, Jake Tapper tweeted it out, of him, not only the anti-Semitism and the racism, but the misogyny. And this is a huge problem for a couple of the leaders of the Women's March, who are standing by him. I mean, you know, saying we don't agree with all of this language, but not publicly distancing themselves in a good enough way.
Yeah, the Women's March people attended the Farrakhan speech.
What if Donald Trump started his political career in the home of an unrepentant domestic terrorist who said he wished he did more in terms of involved in the Pentagon bombing, New York City police headquarters, and the Capitol, and he wished he did more? What would you think of Donald Trump for starting his political career in that person's house?
Oh. Are you talking about his father?
No, Bill Ayers.
Oh, I was like, what are you talking about?
Why are you giving my secrets away? I had her on the ropes.
Listen, no, I'm on the ropes. I'm killing it tonight. No, Bill Ayers is problematic.
Pretty cocky tonight, Jessica.
Well, I agreed with you guys. I don't know what more you want me to do. I don't think it's problematic. If you look at Barack Obama's policies and how
forget all his friends.
No, not all of his friends.
Look at his
forget his pastor.
Oh, wait, look at his policies. Black unemployment, black poverty.
Oh, my God.
Under
that's
President
absolutely
Trump,
not true.
Black unemployment, record low.
That's
Let's look at his policies.
It spiked back up the month after he sat there and bragged about it.
Black unemployment is down dramatically. We had
did that trend start under the black president?
We had in the 8 years of Obama millions more black Americans, Hispanic Americans in poverty and on food stamps.
You think that's because of Reverend Wright?
His policies, he's had 8 years, millions more in poverty and on food stamps. So wait a minute. So his policies failed the black community.
Well, I would disagree with that since black
You can't disagree with
unemployment
facts.
Yes, I can.
How do you disagree with
the
facts?
conditions that Barack Obama inherited from George W. Bush.
Yeah, it's Bush's fault.
Well, why are we doing a segment about Barack
If the dog
Obama?
bites,
Donald Trump is
the bee
president.
stings, and you're feeling
Let's talk
sad.
about Stormy Daniels.
I think
Let's
Bush
talk
probably.
How did we get from that to Stormy Daniels?
Because you want to talk about all the Barack Obama scandals. You did
Let's
this to
talk
me
about
last
Monica
week, too.
Lewinsky. Let's go in for all the.
Her Vanity Fair piece is really fantastic, and I'd recommend everyone read it.
I can't wait to read Vanity Fair. I'll grab my copy on the way home.
She wrote a really
I hate to say it. Winner?
Wait, no.
Jesse's World. You live in it.
There it is.
Sean Spicer, Joe Concha next. So according to the Media Research Center's analysis of the January and February evening newscasts on ABC, CBS, NBC, coverage on President Trump was 91% negative. Shocking. Here with the reaction, former White House press secretary Sean Spicer, and from the Hill, Joe Concha. All right, you're the numbers guy. Joe, we'll start with you.
Okay.
Okay. So 91% is almost everything negative.
9 out of 10 stories. And before anybody says, well, that's Media Research Center, they're a conservative outlet. Pew Research did a similar study for all of 2017 and came essentially to the same conclusion. Look, what's troubling about this is we're talking not about opinion shows. We're talking about ABC, CBS, NBC, the nightly news. Supposed to be nonpartisan, supposed to be bias-free. And remember, 24 million people on average watch those shows a night, so it still has influence. And 24 million is a lot. That's more than average for the World Series. But when 9 out of 10 stories are negative towards an administration, that's bias in broad daylight. And what you have here is a president who's over 40% in the Real Clear Politics average. He's over 50% on the economy in terms of approval. So how do we get back to only getting...
He's at 48% now on Zogby, 50% or thereabouts, 49% on Rasmussen. I haven't checked today or the last couple of days.
48, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those are his numbers keep going up. It seems to me that people are now adjusting. Donald Trump's a little different. He's a disruptor, and they're beginning to, I think, like it, and I think it'll help him in re-election. You know, things have gotten so bad, and I've watched you battle that idiot over at Fake News, Acosta. They want to call him a journalist, but this is the same network that we saw go dumpster diving in St. Petersburg, Russia, and now they went to a jail in Thailand to interview a sex coach and prostitute, thinking they're going to crack open the Trump-Russia collusion story. Sean Spicer.
Well, Sean, first of all, before we get off the numbers, I just want to say congratulations on the ratings. It seems as though there's a nice pattern here with Sean's that support President Trump doing really well in the ratings. So congratulations on your success. I think that proves to the network news that actually telling the truth and getting the story out is what viewers are really tuning in to see these days. But with respect to Mr. Acosta, what this comes down to in this recent tweet that he sent with respect to Sarah Sanders, he said that she, by not calling on him, didn't show courage. Well, let's be honest. Jim Acosta is a carnival barker in the press room that is both clueless and classless. The day that briefing was taking place, Sarah answered over 40 questions. But because Jim Acosta didn't get his precious question in, which I'm sure would have amounted to screaming and yelling of something absurd, he feels as though that showed a lack of courage. But on that same day, Sarah had 2 combat veterans sitting on stage that had just met with President Trump, who he thanked for their service. Sergeant John Peck and Sergeant Liam Dwyer, both individuals who were injured in Iraq separately, went back, rehabbed, went to therapy, and then re-enlisted to go to Iraq. And in both cases, both got further injured. Sergeant Peck lost both his arms and both his legs. Staff Sergeant Dwyer lost an arm and has had over 50 surgeries. That, Mr. Acosta, is courage. That's courage. Don't talk about not getting a question being a lack of courage. Right. Real courage is going to serve this country and acting like an adult.
Well said. Last word.
Fox News, in the first 4 years of President Obama's press conferences, 36 press conferences, he only called on Fox 14 times. All right, so networks get boxed out depending on the administration. Well said. This is how it works.
Video of the day next.